45.
Looks like Todd Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best.
Yeah.
What?
The bunny ears are back. That ending there with the bunny ears with her.
It's quite the introduction. I like that.
Yeah, man, you gotta have bunny ears when you introduce somebody, right?
pretty good pre-roll.
Yeah. So we have someone actually. You were here on season 1, I believe, weren't you? Like, it's been a while since we've spoken.
The last few years have flown by very quickly. Yeah, season 1. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So anyone who has not recognized the voice, it is the voice of the one and only Clayton Collins. How you doing, Clayton?
Doing wonderful. Thrilled to be back on the show. Laugh, lend,
and eat. Don't forget eat, man. It's important. It's important to eat, man. By the way, how do you have any strict eating habits? I mean, I'm sure you're working gazillion hours a day. I mean, or you just like go with the flow? I know we talked about this last time, and there was a Florida group or something like that with you last time, as I remember.
I'm going with the flow, man. I got 3 kids in a busy company. As much as I tell myself I'm going to be disciplined, it's kind of go with the flow. I actually just got back into the office a couple minutes ago. My chief of staff, Alex, and I we have a new office down in the farmers market area of Dallas, and we just walked over and got barbecue at the farmers market. So had a pretty good brisket slider entree. So
nice.
A little bit of the Texas fix.
I used to have my office there, and I actually wrecked my one and only time that I wrecked a rental car.
Really?
Was it the Farmers Branch office?
No, we're so different. So Farmers Branch is like kind of northwest. We're Farmers Market, which is like downtown. It's in downtown Dallas.
Oh, okay. Got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to mention the wreck then.
Yeah.
So listen, I mean, HousingWire, you are the editor and owner of HousingWire, is an accurate description, I believe, of your title, right?
Yeah, not editor.
Not editor,
I didn't actually found HousingWire either. So I'm the founder of HW Media, a group that I started to acquire HousingWire in 2016. So HousingWire was founded, initially as like a blog in 06, and the founders, Paul and Richard, built it into a publishing business over the first 8 years of the evolution, 8 or 9 years of the evolution. And I acquired HousingWire from them in 2016, and been spent almost 7 years now executing on the strategy to significantly expand the audience and hire great media people and editors and reporters and content creators and salespeople to build a business, and expanded in different ways too. So we've been fortunate to bring a few other businesses into HW Media, and in 2020 we acquired Real Trends from Steve Murray. Steve's a legend in the real estate brokerage ecosystem, or Real Trends has run the Gathering of Eagles event for the top real estate brokers in the country for the last 31 years. This June will be the 31st show for the Gathering of Eagles, and we've done 30 years of real estate agent and broker and team rankings through Real Trends. And we acquired a really, really smart and niche media brand called Reverse Mortgage Daily in 2021. And just about 2 months ago, I was fortunate to bring Altos Research and its founder, Mike Simonson, into HW Media, which really steps us forward in bringing proprietary, insightful, real-time housing market and listing data into HousingWire. So it's been a fun evolution over the last few years.
Was this your game plan in 2016? Like, did you say, okay, look, we're gonna, like, you see components? I'm sure as a guy that's building a business, right? You're seeing components. And
yeah. So the thing, if you went back to my original like information memorandum when I was raising money to buy HousingWire, it's played out very similar to how we anticipated at the time, of course, with some nuance. We've become much more focused on the single family residential housing market than we anticipated. So if I was 2016 to tell you where we were now, it'd probably be a little tighter around publishing and media, but expanded into multifamily and commercial. And I'm not saying we won't do that at one point, but our opportunity set and organically and inorganically has been focused on this single family residential market where we built our specialty. And that's exciting. And, it's the pain we're all going through in the market right now of rapid changes in rates and low inventory and low volume is, leaves something to be desired, but it helps us build really, really focused expertise around this single family space that we're pretty passionate about.
How does that affect a marketing company like yours? I mean, I'm calling you guys a marketing company. I mean, you're clearly a media company, right? So, but in my mind, it's like a marketing thing because people are using HousingWire publication, whether it's digital or print, to promote their interest, whether it's a third-party vendor or mortgage lender. So I always see HW more as a marketing tool. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's you look at it through a few different lenses. I think most important, we think of ourselves as being in the business of audience. If we're not able to build and engage and grow an audience of housing professionals, then we're nothing. We're not able to monetize or help clients in any way. But the way we look at the business from a revenue model perspective is we have to grow and engage an audience of housing professionals, and we have to nurture and build a client base of best of breed technology providers, service providers, wholesale and correspondent lenders who want to access our audience of housing professionals. And we put a lot of emphasis on making sure we're working with the right clients on the marketing and advertising side that are, bringing solutions to the industry that actually help loan originators be more efficient and drive more volume, help secondary markets providers have the right technology, or servicers have the right sub-servicing or tech partners. Real estate brokers have access to the right lead gen sources or right CRM platforms. So we spend a lot of time making sure we're working with best of breed partners. And as the market goes through cycles, you definitely see some bifurcation and some tech and services players that are gaining market share and continuing to put their foot on the gas, and others that are pulling back. And it's exciting when we get to partner with the players who keep their foot on the gas, but certainly we're not immune.
I can see some loan officer's head just exploding with what you just said.
Sorry, was it a lot? Was it too much?
No, that was just like I'm hearing all these things. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. If I'm a loan officer that just loves to read HousingWire to see what's going on, right? I'm like, dude, what is this guy doing to myself, right?
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm like, this is like in my head. I think about this stuff all day long.
This is what I love. This is why I love getting people that are not mortgaged. Like, you're mortgaged, but you're not really mortgaged, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you target your audience then, I guess, if you could describe your target audience for our listeners today, right?
So our strategy is like all things housing and like being founded in the housing crisis. Like, part of what we saw in the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis in 2007 through really like 2011 was a kind of too many silos around content and information. And we do believe that the GFC would not have been quite as bad, or may have been avoided entirely, if real estate agents understood what was happening on the mortgage origination side, if capital markets desks understood some of the behavior that was starting to happen in home building and loan origination, if servicers had a direct line of communication with what was happening in the valuation and underwriting space. So our strategy has always been built to connect the entire housing economy and, help loan originators better understand the servicing world and better understand the title world, and help title professionals better understand valuation. And like, we all have like distinct functions in this housing economy and in this housing market, but ultimately we're all really interconnected and interdependent. So when we talk about our target audience, it's housing professionals, but we do niche content to serve specific segments. So like, we have a newsletter called Lending Life, which we write and curate specifically for loan originators. So LOs can go to HousingWire and click on the newsletters tab and sign up for Lending Life. And like, the content is curated to the right housing market and rate and product and M&A and joint venture trends that impacts the LO. We also have like niche newsletters and podcasts that serve title professionals and valuation professionals and the like. So we go deep and broad at the same time. So we want to go broad and cover the housing economy. We want to go deep to help specific segments like just be better and more professional and more successful.
What made you guys go in the podcast? I saw that about a year and a half ago. I think I saw that. I was like, hey, look, Clay's got his podcast going. You know what I mean?
Man, we've been in for a while. I'm glad you noticed in the last year and a half, but I mean, we're probably I'm in season 8 of
Season
Housing
8,
News. We did
really?
a couple of seasons. The first few seasons weren't full years. I think we probably launched our first podcast in late 17 or
Okay.
early 18.
I apologize. Yeah, I just noticed it.
Yeah, we and some of them have grown a lot. So like I host Housing News, which is a weekly interview of mortgage, real estate, and prop tech kind
Mhm.
of C-suite executives, and I try to host it from like an operator to operator perspective, and you talk about the challenges and the opportunities of building businesses
Yeah.
and serving clients in this industry. Sarah Wheeler hosts a daily show, HousingWire Daily, and that's kind of a wrap up of the newsroom. She has Logan Motoshami, our lead analyst, on a few times a week, and a few editors from the newsroom, and occasionally a guest from the industry. But that's a daily show. I mean,
Okay.
that is a brutal undertaking, but
That
it's
is.
because of the effort and the focus. It is now, I believe it's the number 9 business news podcast in the country. Like we're ranked
Wow.
significantly higher than a lot of the Wall Street Journal and
Wow.
Bloomberg podcasts. It's pretty cool to have like, this what I still consider niche B2B housing podcasts like kind of elevate to the main
Yeah.
stage. And Sarah and Logan and her team have done a great job
That's awesome,
building
man.
that one.
'Cause it's a lot of work. People don't understand how much work goes into doing a podcast. I mean, and Jason Frazier, Josh Pitts, and I, we talk about this a lot, you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like you go down this road and you don't really realize if you're gonna put out a quality product that has your name on it and your brand on it, it's gotta be like A+. It can't even be a B+. And I just don't understand sometimes people think, "Well, I wanna do a podcast," and I don't think they understand the full gravity of what they're asking for at that point. I didn't. I mean, I'll be very honest with you, Clay. I didn't know, you know what I mean? That'd be fun to have
Yeah.
some of my
And
friends come on and tell a few jokes.
especially if you're doing a guest show and like getting guests on the schedule that you need them on, and
Yeah.
the more senior you go and your guest title, like the more unpredictable schedules are, and you get cancellations and reschedules, and you're trying to do a
Huge.
daily or weekly show. Like, all right, well, I got to find someone today
Yeah,
to
and, you
do
know,
this
we
episode.
started doing more of a panel show, so we normally will have 3 to
Yeah.
5 people on the show, and that's a beast. Because now you gotta coordinate 3 to 5 people's schedules at the same time to pinpoint them on one day and one time that it all works, so anyway, enough about that. I'm sure the
Props
audience
to
don't
you
wanna
on
hear that.
that. I have found that I'm much more effective in one-on-one. Even having like 2 guests on is hard. It's
Yeah.
harder for me to carry the conversation. I like going one-on-one and being conversational.
Well, you know, since you brought up the talking with the leaders and that kind of stuff, right? I mean, we're all facing the current market, and look, I've been doing this since 1994, right? This is not my first rodeo, right? And I've been doing a lot of coaching with Christine Beckwith schools and her students, and kind of walking through some of the hardships that they're facing with my own managers and
Yep.
my own regionals that are dealing with their own issues. But I mean, you're talking to a lot of leaders across the nation. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're all seeing the same thing, right? Like somewhere around the 2023 mark, middle of this year, it should kind of level off to something where we can kind of get back on track. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a few different predictions out there, and I'll before jumping into that question, I'll kind of like go back to your comment on starting in 1994, and one of the most prominent trends or prominent takeaways that I've seen through hosting Housing News is the difference in tone, confidence, approach, mindset from the housing leaders who have been through more than a couple cycles. And
Mhm.
so if you started in 94, you're kind of right after the S&L crisis, right?
Right, right. I mean, when I
So
got in, the '93 refi boom was just ending,
mhm.
and all my friends were like, "Why would you wanna go in the mortgage business now?" And I was like, Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll work it
Yeah.
out."
Yeah. They couldn't foresee that you were gonna do this for 3 decades and not just ride out a wave, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a trend that comes, or that's a theme that comes across as you talk to senior leaders, and, over the last year, like, 2 of the conversations that stick out the most, to me are Anthony Shea from Loan Depot and Bill Dallas at Finance of America,
Mhm.
2 leaders who have, not had easy years, but the approach that they take and the mindset that's there of understanding the fact that they operate in a cyclical industry, understanding the models that they have built and operate, understanding how those models will perform in different market cycles. Like, it ain't easy. Profitability, net income changes really quickly. Headcount changes really quickly. It's tough to talk about headcount as kind of a business input output.
Sure.
because there's a lot of really good people in the housing industry right now who have been displaced and are sitting on the sidelines due to honestly no fault of their own,
Yeah.
just the game that they're in. And it's a painful part of this industry, but when you talk to leaders who have been through a few cycles, they understand the game that they're playing. They understand the risk that's involved. They understand how to maneuver through a cycle. They understand how to staff up and lever up when the market's good, and they understand how to take their foot off the gas when you have the dynamics that we faced over the last 8 months. And I think that as an originator, it's I've heard great coaches for years talk about like, hey, don't spend the refi money, like put it in the bank. And
Absolutely.
and I think we kind of see that same concept applies to IMB and mortgage banking leaders. Like there's a certain amount of cash and a certain amount of balance sheet capacity that's necessary to survive and grow through a down cycle. And I think the leaders that we saw come in with the balance sheet capacity and the cash or the access to capital, as we came into this extremely slow period, we're starting to see some people prepared to put their foot on the gas again, and they're not doing it off of net income and cash flow. They're doing it off of reserves and Wall Street access because they knew what was coming.
Yeah. Do you think that, the experience sometimes can be a liability though? Can we agree on that?
We can definitely agree on that.
Right? Because sometimes our experiences can hold us back from opportunities. And, like a lot of us who went through the '08, you know what I mean? There was several years of my career after the '08 debacle where, I had sold a company. I thought I did the right thing. And then the company that I sold it to went under. So about 18 months later, they're going under, and now goes all the money that I ever made, and all whatever was owed to me is gone, and blah, 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 blah. So now, for several years after that, I was very cautious.
Yeah.
I was walking around very timid. And I probably lost some opportunities that I could have made between 2012 and 2018, let's say. And I wonder if people are losing some opportunities in this current market because of what they may have experienced in the past.
Listen, everybody, you can have 100 people that have the same experience, and each of them are going to do something different with that experience. And like when I talk about the experience at the C-suite level of some of the moves that we're seeing leaders make and getting their business right sized and prepare to be, survive this market. That's what they chose to do with their experience. There's other people who let experience leave scars or prevent them from adopting new technology or gets them stuck in their ways. And ultimately, I think that everybody does something a little bit different with experience. And I think that's an important thing to sit back and think about. Like, what did I learn through a challenging period? And how am I going to apply that to the future? Is that tough experience? Man, I didn't know about your 2008 scenario. That's brutal. But what do you do with that? Does it scare you from building again? Does it scare you from buying or selling a business again? Or does it encourage you okay, that happened this time. If we do this again, structurally, this needs to change. And you go right back to the field.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's an important thing we all need to think about internally as producers, professionals, owners. How much risk tolerance do you have, and how are you going to learn from the wins and losses of the past?
Yeah, I think the good leaders that I've been working with and that I've seen, in the past, especially currently, they're getting a consensus. They're saying, look, this is what I felt, but what are you going through, and how do you see somebody else deal with this? And that consensus building to go and make the next step. Ultimately, it's their decision, right? I get that, but at least they're getting feedback, and it's not just a one-man show running a ship.
Yep.
And I think those are it feels, at least in my end of the career, where I'm at, it feels better. But let's pivot here for a second. Let's get back to the market in 2023. We are here. The Fed just cut the rate a quarter point the other day, right? We see a little bit of improvement in the rates. Loan officers seem to be giddy again. Like, oh my God, we're back in the fives or high fives or whatever they may be at this point. What does the market look like based on what you're seeing?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're starting to get a sense of that same excitement in the market. There's definitely some economic indicators that are, pointing toward opportunity and pointing toward light at the end of the tunnel. And there's also some challenging economic indicators. So through Altos, we get a live real-time look at listings across the country. It's from my vantage point, the most timely pulse data that we have in the housing market. And this week we continue to see that inventory keeps declining, which is it's a challenging dynamic if we want to see volume increase. Now, it remains to be seen. We'll see this in the full first quarter data. If some of the reason that inventory is declining is because of increased velocity of houses are moving faster. So like, is demand actually like one driver of why inventory is falling? But as our lead analyst Logan Motoshami likes to put it, is like housing is different than other parts of the market. So like in economics class, you learn about like the inverse relationship of supply and demand.
Right.
But the existing home sales market is different because supply equals demand. Like when someone wants to buy a new house, they sell their old house, or when someone sells their house, they come in the market to buy a new one. So there's a different economic characteristic to this existing home sales market, which ultimately drives the mortgage industry.
Well, a house is an asset and not a good. I think people mistake that. They think it's like a grocery, like they bought a banana or something. You know what I mean? And if more people buy bananas, then the price of bananas will go up, which, kind of makes sense. But it's an asset also that once you buy that banana, you can't hold on to it for 10 years.
And you can't resell it. It's a consumable with like an expiration date. Right. So like the home, when you buy a new banana, it's because the old one's gone or expired or eaten in the trash can. You buy a new house, you're selling your old one. So there's a correlation between supply and demand that you don't see in other economic curves. So seeing inventory go down is not a positive signal. But as rates go down, what we have to we hope, hope's not a strategy, but what we anticipate that we'll see rates go down, buyers are more confident going back to the market, which means their homes that they currently live in will be sold. And we'll start to see this correlated curve between supply and demand move up and to the right, where for the last several months, really since January of 2020, that with the exception of a rapid increase in inventory in the second half of 2022, we've seen the curve come like down, and the inventory coming down at the same time as rates going up. That's the perfect storm that we live through.
Yeah, it's interesting with inventories being as tight as, we all know they are, that builders are trying to dump their inventory by offering these rates that I've been hearing about last few weeks, where it's like well below market rates that they're offering. And when you talk to the builder, they just want to get the inventory out of their developments.
Yeah, ultimately, new homes are it's different by market, right? So we're talking about a national housing market, and we know that there's not really a national housing market. It's a combination of hundreds of MSAs. But at a national level, new home inventory is a very small part of total inventory. We talk about existing homes is what really drives success in the mortgage market. Great point. Like what builders are doing at a national level, maybe this plays different in certain like Sunbelt cities and states. What builders are doing can be seen as preparation to begin new development. They are selling a new home is closer to a banana than an existing home. Like the lender or builders have an expiration date. They need to move their inventory. They are not in the business of speculation and sitting on inventory until the price is right. They are in the business of building houses, selling houses, building houses, selling houses. So seeing builders grease the skids, whether it's through interest rates or incentives or pricing to move inventory, like I don't see that as a scary economic indicator. I don't see that as a fear move. I see that as a move it's normal course of business, and they're taking advantage of an opportunity of low existing home inventory. So let's move some of this new home inventory so we can get started on the next project.
Yeah. Well, another topic I want to talk about that we're seeing in 2000, well, kind of carrying over from 2022 to 2023 is M&As, right? A lot of mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
More mergers, by the way. I think there's more mergers than there are acquisitions, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't follow it as well as I should. I kind of hear about it when you guys report it, quite honestly. That's what I'll come across my cell phone. Like, oh, somebody just got bought out again today. But
Yeah.
are we going to see a slowdown in that area as the rates kind of come to this, where all of a sudden, bottom lines start to tick up? All of a sudden, people that were in operations are being hired again, that kind of stuff. What do you think?
So, I mean, if you zoom up a level from M&A and let's talk about consolidation.
Okay.
And I think there's a theme that started playing out in 2022 and it'll continue playing through 2023 of consolidation. The mortgage market, one of the reasons it's so interesting and fruitful is that it's one of the most fragmented markets in our economy. For the U.S. housing economy being the most important part of the U.S. economy, it is amazing how fragmented it is. And we came into this last cycle with over 4,000 lenders in the country. And there's some analysts that predict that consolidation could eliminate up to 30% of those players. Now, that consolidation won't necessarily all be M&A. Like some of it will be business failures. Some will be really competitive recruiting where the big get bigger, or new entrants get bigger faster because they're able to recruit top originators and teams away from other institutions that might be dealing with their own financial problems or technical debt or lack of investment in marketing or IT infrastructure.
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of that right now. So we're seeing some mergers and acquisitions. It's primarily in scenarios where you have an entity that has a short fuse on cash, and there's like probably an imminent failure or a disinterested investor sitting in the cap table. And so I don't see a lot of deals right now where if you have a successful growing origination shop, it's being bought because someone wants a piece of that secret sauce. That's what you often see in tech M&A. That's not what's happening in mortgage M&A right now. Honestly, the bigger needle mover that you see in this consolidation theme is IMB regions and leaders leaving and taking folks to other organizations. So I think we're going to see some movement in the HMDA league tables next year of who the top lenders are, not necessarily because they scooped up great assets, but because they recruited really well or lost people because of lack of investment strategy, capital, whatever it is.
But recruiting and regional lenders and their team seems to open up a lot of legal recourses there. I mean, I see more lawsuits now. And just for the record, I mean, I think we've talked about this, not you, but other people. I've been part of 3 different lawsuits in my career. One was very expensive. I mean, just it was like, are you kidding me? Expensive. You know what I mean? But it's always you think you're doing the right way, you think you're doing something, and then, you got a group of, say, 40 some odd loan officers, and a few of them do something that caused the entire legal thing to trip up, and now you got to go defend everybody. So, I mean, and you may not even know the answer, is there a legal way that, I mean, or are these lawsuits even necessary? Let's start from that point. Everybody is doing what the other guy is being sued for, right? I mean, XYZ suing ABC, but ABC did the same thing, or XY, you know what I mean? So why do we even go down that road of suing people, or what's the purpose, I guess?
Lawsuits aren't always framed because somebody's right or somebody's wrong. Sometimes they're meant to disencourage or disincentivize behavior. Some of the most expensive lawsuits have little grounding, but they slow people down and disincentivize competitive action because of the expense. Even if it costs the person who initiated the lawsuit equal amount of money, it can still be a competitive tool. That's not a pointed statement in any way about which recruiting practice is right and which one's wrong. There's a legal way to do it and there's an illegal way to do it. But we're for an industry where the stakes as high as they are in mortgage lending, I don't think we should anticipate an environment where there's ever less litigation. I think litigation is something that happens when stakes are high, and stakes are high.
is there as much litigation in other industries that you may be aware of? Because I'm not as aware of. I don't hear about this in other industries where company A is suing company B because it's real estate industry. I don't hear it in the real estate industry. I don't hear it in the title business. I don't hear it, in the stock side. So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out why did the mortgage people become so litigious in the first place? Is it because we are sitting on so much data, I guess? That's the only thing that came to my mind. And I mean, I like what you said. I like that it discourages other people from doing the same behavior. I can see that, right?
Yeah, from my vantage point, part of it is an aspect of the industry being as fragmented as it is. So like other industries you point out where there is a 10,000 pound gorilla who has 30, 40, 50% market share, litigation, competition, it all looks different. Like we're an industry where every cycle and every decade we see massive movement in who the top 10 or 20 lenders are. There's an opportunity in every cycle to become as close as you possibly can to being that 10,000 pound gorilla, and people get aggressive to get there. When you pointed out like real estate brokerage and title, like, they're still in the housing sector. Like there's definitely litigation there. It might not be quite as loud as it is in the mortgage side, but look across the economy to other global leading sectors like healthcare and energy. Like there are law firms entirely built on energy litigation and more so than mortgage litigation. So when you think about other like market moving sectors, litigation, it's part of the game. People are suing over IP, they're suing over competitive practices. It's not isolated to this industry.
Well, I don't know how we ended up down this rabbit hole, but what the hell?
yeah, or who we're helping with the conversation. I don't know. It's but we can definitely steer this back toward eating if you want.
I did have one thing. I mean, you've been doing this since 2016, right? So you've seen some articles, and I'm sure you've been involved with some articles, right? And some like ideas that said, hey, why don't you run with this? Do you ever do that, or do you stay out of it?
I'm pretty far removed from the newsroom. And like, so, I'm a banker by background. Like I was a retail and commercial banker. And then I did M&A advisory and a lot of media M&A and investing. Okay. So like, I've never come into this like saying like, hey, I'm the journalist to run an editorial strategy or a newsroom. As close as I get is like helping recruit, develop, and coach the best journalists and media people I can. And we're fortunate to have a great editor in chief, Sarah Wheeler, and newsroom managing editor James Kleiman, who run all the content strategy and source relationships. And a big part of my charge is in empowering them to run independently and not interfering my banker mentality into their journalistic process.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, but is there? I guess in 2016, I mean, was this a wise investment to take on? Because in 2016 we were all thinking that print media is pretty much like the surrender flags are up, and if you got a blog on the computer, you can pretty much take out any magazine. So I mean, from a banker point, what were you thinking?
We've been a digital first publication since day one. So we run a print publication. Our HousingWire magazine is it's a pretty small part of like the revenue and financial picture, but it's a great audience engagement tool that helps us stay in touch and stay front and center with some of our most important audience members. But we've been digital first since day one. HousingWire was founded as a digital publication. Print came later. That's a very different DNA than you see in other media categories that are trying to make the transition and move revenue from print to digital. And we've been fortunate to only accelerate that path and emphasis on the digital side. As long as media has been around, as long as the internet has been around, the wave of kind of Web 2.0, Web 3.0 digital publishing is still relatively early. And we have an opportunity and have been taking advantage of the opportunity to, build that digital presence and hopefully be a leader in how the industry consumes content. So what probably wouldn't have been the best idea if we were a print publication. And I said, I'm going to take this to the interwebs.
That's what I was wondering.
Unfortunately, I did not have to do that solo or at the time.
If somebody was to start something similar to what you have today, is this a good time to do it? Or is this like, we get asked all the time, right? this a good time to start a mortgage company fob, or is this a good time to, I mean, I don't know, right? But I mean, if somebody was saying, I want to duplicate what HousingWire did, but I don't want to, I mean, is this the right time, or should they wait, or should they not even bother doing it?
Yeah, the entrepreneur in me is like, relatively similar to the mortgage guy in me. Like the right time to start a business is when you're ready to start a business. The right time to buy a home is when you're ready to buy a house. And you look back in history, and some of the best businesses in mortgage lending, technology, media are started in down cycles. And so I fully anticipate we're going to see a lot of new players come into the housing industry in different capacities as lenders and brokerages and tech companies and content companies. Like this is the cycle when that stuff happens, and it happens because it's an interesting time to shake things up, and it also happens because there's people who unfortunately were displaced from a current venture or current role, and entrepreneurship is one of the options you have as you're searching for like the next thing to dedicate your time and energy toward.
Do you see yourself more as a content? Like you use the word content creator a few times here, and I don't know if you picked up on that. So do you see like Housing Media or HousingWire more as a content creator or as a public? I mean, I know it sounds weird to people listening, but in my mind, being so conscious of content, you know what I mean? Just content. Is that what the publication is now?
I see our business as an information services company, and
Okay.
the strategy we execute is at the intersection of media and data. So we run a newsroom that covers what's happening in the industry, the people, the companies, the economic information through real trends. And also as we've branched into research and data, both industry data, like the data tracking the top real estate brokers and teams and agents, and now housing market data through listings intelligence at 99% of national coverage. And so I think of our business as, hey, we have to have and uncover and analyze intelligence, and then tell the right stories, and which helps the industry and helps professionals that read us better understand what's happening in the housing market. So
Look, we're coming up on the end here, but I gotta interject something, because I know I asked you that we're going to talk about this. We got to talk about it. ChatGPT, man. I've been addicted to this thing like the last few weeks, right? I don't know how many hours I've given my life of this to ChatGPT to figure this thing, like not figure it out, but just to learn it, right?
Yep.
Have you used it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, using it quite a bit. So I'll like in like really practical business ways too. So like we had to develop a intercompany services agreement, and like our VP of finance like typed the qualifications or like the details that he needed in this like relatively complex legal document into ChatGPT, and it drafted a perfect intercompany services agreement. So
Amazing.
wow, like this is a that's kind of a game changer. Probably
It is.
saved a couple $1,000s in legal fees. And like, hey, no, it's not perfect. It needed a little bit of editing, it needed some formatting, but it gets the job done for an internal legal doc. I'll plug for a second.
I actually asked ChatGPT before you joined us, could a writer for HousingWire use ChatGPT solely? Right. And it said, relying solely on ChatGPT could result in writing that lacks originality and creativity.
So I think from a writing perspective, ChatGPT develops frameworks, and and this will change and get better over time. But right now, the algorithms have only been trained through 2021. So
Right.
ask ChatGPT, how's the housing market, or what's happening in the Dallas housing market, and the answer you're going to get is COVID-19 has caused interest rates to drop incredibly quickly and bring increased demand to the housing market. Open house lines are a mile long, and multiple offers on every house is the scenario at hand.
Right.
And you're like, I mean, a few things have changed in the last 6 or 8 months, but yeah, I guess that was a correct answer at a time. So what can be used, it can be used to develop frameworks, and I think that's like a smart thing to do. I've done it on social posts and like a few email templates, and like you gotta go in and like double check the data. Like if you're doing anything that's like data centric or metric centric, like I've had a lot of trouble getting ChatGPT to have accurate numbers. And, that's a pretty important part of like business content creation and business journalism. I had today, Thursday, February 2nd, we dropped an episode of Housing News. I had Todd Carpenter on. Todd used to lead investments for Second Century Ventures, NARS venture arm. And we talked a lot about ChatGPT, just some good stuff in there. And he talked about how agents are using it. And like, it really got my attention a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I guess. CNN published an article that real estate agents can't do their job without ChatGPT. I was like, come on, that is the biggest like hyperbole, like BS headline I've ever heard in my life. And Todd and I chatted about that, and there are a lot of agents that are starting to use ChatGPT to write listing descriptions, which is potentially problematic. So like when you talk about intellectual property and IP in the real estate and MLS world, the two things that have intellectual property protection are listing descriptions and the pictures. And so like if the agent's not actually writing the listing description, like does that intellectual property hold? Can people like take that description from the MLSs? Is it protected? And we're also seeing some pretty clever technologies pop up really quickly that uncover if content is created by artificial intelligence. And you've probably seen the headlines about the college kid who wrote an algorithm that uncovers if like the term paper homework assignment was written with ChatGPT. Like that is now completely discoverable, and every college professor in the country is running their content, running like homework assignments through the engine.
Okay. So, I mean, it's meeting its match, but at the end of the day, I think this is the first step into what we've always been talking about, the world of the AI.
Yep.
I think as a first step, it's not a bad first step.
No, it's good. But the thing is, it's not the first step. So like, if you I know you follow like stock related content. So like Bloomberg, Reuters, like, what's it called? Market Watch, like they've been doing this for a long time. Like earnings coverage is not written by people, like that is written by algorithms, and to some of it, I think. But
I do believe this is the first time that the public has become aware of it.
You're correct. Yeah, first time the public is using the tools that businesses have been using for a while.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. It's like now it's kind of like what Apple did to the phone. Like all of a sudden you could just touch something and it would pop up. And it wasn't this complex piece of equipment anymore. Probably the computer's a better example, but what I'm talking about. So they simplified something that we all were seeing on the back end, but now it's user friendly. Is that and that's the right way.
User friendly, and it changes the way we uncover information. Like, you've always been able to ask Google questions and get web pages recommended. Now you can ask ChatGPT a question and get an answer, and you can get it in the tone you like. I love asking ChatGPT a question and like putting in and make it witty or and like it's kind of funny. It's kind of
I actually had to write a sonnet in the voice of William Shakespeare about squirrels, and it was amazing.
That's a good one. I'll play with that one later. But ultimately, it's a tool I'm using and playing with, and I think there'll be different use cases across the industry. But I don't think it disrupts the real estate agent. I don't think people have are like. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of exaggeration on the impact it's having today. But right now, it's a pretty damn cool tool that works well with human oversight.
It's fun for sure. That's the one thing I love about it. So anyway, Clayton, thank you so much for taking the time out for us today. I know you're a busy guy. You're running everything out there for us. So keep doing the great job out there and keep expanding, brother. And so, honestly, if I'm in Dallas, I hope I can hook up with you and get some more information out of your brain.
Keep an eye out for your text. Nice to talk to you, Fabi.
All right, brother. JP, get us out of here, man.
45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best.
Yeah.
What?
The bunny ears are back.